Well, let's talk about superstar Billy Graham for a couple minutes here, just because it's so recent that it
Oh,
happened.
sure. Yeah, yeah.
I wanted to just bring this up. I know we've been kind of trying to find time to bring it up, but like, I really had a lot of fun going back the last week or so, and rewatching a lot of promos that he did, and laughing at some of those promos. And there's the one that I cut the clip out of him, talking about how he's covered in scorpions, or I mean tarantulas rather. He's got a promo where he's got tarantulas all over his face, and he's talking about how he's the toughest guy in the world, and he's ready to get back at it. But I mean, what a career that guy really had, man. And it's just, I know we kind of talked about this at 1.2, just the rift between Vince and his dad. And it really kind of it stems from a lot from this, and just not being able to, not wanting to run with him as the champion when he was the biggest thing in the world, and then wanting to still run with ethnic characters that are based on local regions of the country, like just taking it from that area into the world where superstar Billy Graham was one of a kind, man. He set the stage for everybody. He's the first professional wrestler, if you want to think about it like that. I mean, maybe Gorgeous George has got a claim to that too, but that was a lot earlier than Superstar Graham. But I mean, even the stuff that Graham did, where he set up Hogan and set up Muhammad Ali and things like that, that stuff is fascinating to learn about that.
Yeah, and that's like when you brought that in. So if you hear the old Superstar Billy Graham promos and you hear him say things like "fly like a butterfly, sting like a bee," like those things they weren't copied from Muhammad Ali. It was actually vice versa, which is mind blowing. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That those things got lifted from a pro wrestler. Another thing is that not only did he, tee up like the promos of the greatest, drawing boxing card of the 20th century, but in just hearing and reading some of the historical things. With no Billy Graham, we have no real Ric Flair, who was basically like his, Uber driver in and around the territories, where got a chance to, sit and be in the car with him and learn how to promo and learn how to work an audience and learn how to work heel and everything else. Obviously, you have no Hulk Hogan. We have no Governor Jesse Ventura, who, that Jesse Ventura LJN might as well be a Billy Graham LJN, because it's the same person. And then especially whenever you see Jesse, whenever he's doing those Saturday Night Main Events, things that he's wearing, his hair, everything else, it's all totally ripped from Billy Graham. And so not only that, but WWF Superstars, the show, was named after him, literally. WWF started calling the wrestlers superstars specifically because of him, not just wrestlers. And so things get really, really deep here, man. And
I didn't know all this, by the way.
Listen,
you're educating the masses right here, babes.
You come to TNF to TNF. Thursday Night Football. You come to Tooth and Nail, baby, and we are here to educate, man. We're here not only to pontificate, but to educate. But the other crazy thing about that is that he was the complete likeness for the Super Macho Man character in the Punch-Out games.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, look at the stuff he did. He inspired Steiner for 20 years of his career, for Scotty Steiner.
Well, Scott Steiner, not Buff Bagwell, Big Papa Pump is Billy Graham with hair.
Oh my word.
Yeah. Yeah, you're 100% right. I mean, and it's such a crazy story. His whole career is such a crazy story, because the guy leaves, WWF, or it might even still been WWF at that point. I can't even remember what the timeline is for that. But he ends up in NWA as a karate guy. He's in there doing karate matches. And it's just an insane career. And him, with the addiction to the steroids and everything else, man, and it just destroying his body and everything. And there's always been that crazy story that he used to tell people about, how he was so addicted to steroids. Like he would lay in bed and he could hear his muscles growing, like ripping. and getting bigger. I mean, that is, it's just like one of the craziest things I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah, and not only that, but he also ties into, he was at the time one of the strongest men in the world. He was down there clanging and banging with Arnold and it's not Frank Zane. It was Frank Zane, the little guy. Who's the little guy? Franco Colombo, and then over in Venice Beach in the 70s. Like Billy Graham was a common there. It is a really, really crazy spider web of things that came out from this one person, and people that I would assume that my age is the cutoff. My age of 734 years, that nobody, this unbegotten star time that nobody knows. But I feel like people my age is the cutoff, because here's John that and I learned a lot of things since he passed too, that people are never going to know, man. And it's really, really wild that you had somebody that was this influential, that was this big a deal. And he lived, not only did he live a full life, he lived until 2023. And just now some of this stuff is starting to come out. Pretty wild whenever you look at that.
Just 10 years too early, man. That guy, maybe even only 5 years too early. Because if they would have ran with him whenever Vince Jr. wanted to run with him, and the old man didn't want to do it, I mean, it'd be a different WWF right now than what it was. Because they're like you said, there's no need for Hogan at that point when you've got that guy. But what people also don't really understand about that guy is just the sheer size of that guy. He was way, way bigger physically than what anybody really, really understands. A lot of fans don't realize how big that guy really was.
That was awesome. I loved. I could go for more Billy Graham talk.
Well, the craziest thing, John, seriously, is, and we can send you some of these whenever we're done, but he was the Muhammad Ali promo. Like that was the thing that like slapped me in the face, because I heard that he was the inspiration, quote unquote. And then since he had passed, I heard actual snippets of him on the microphone saying, and I'll fly like a butterfly and I'll sting like a bee. And like all of these things that then Muhammad Ali just ripped and then just took into the mainstream. And these were all Billy Graham lines.
Wow.
Dusty Rhodes, with no Billy Graham, there's no Dusty Rhodes. Because Dusty was a huge fan of his. So
and without no Dusty, there's no Flair too.
Yep. And well, Flair was his bad guy, drove him around. And Dusty, whenever Billy was in Florida or whatever the story was, that's why if you look at all those early 80s Dusty's things where he's wearing the fur coats. So before like Hard Times, quote unquote, when he has on fur coats and he has on sunglasses and he has a Jerry curl and all those are all very, very Billy Graham adjacent things that were all lifted there. He's the first one that said daddy, like Dusty Rhodes ripped the daddy from Billy Graham.
Oh, okay.
It's pretty deep, dude. It really is.
Now, look, I'm not as big of a historian as what a lot of other people are out there in the world, but is he the first heel that got cheered a lot, like by a lot of people? I mean, it seems like he was really like the first heel champion that people were the first cool heel, man. It really feels like that's what it was.
Well, the thing about that is that that the Observer thing had said, and it was actually really cool. They listed all the MSG sellouts by person, and in the Observer, the words were that his proudest achievement out of everything was that he had sold out MSG X amount of times, and it was only less than Bruno.
19 out of 20, I think.
Yeah, and it was only less than Bruno for the number, and the percentage was insane. And that was his claim to fame, was that I was on the top of the billing and people came to see me. So, yeah, very well could have been.
Yeah, 6'2", 275 is what I saw online just now, looking at just how big that dude. You think about that, a 6'2" guy, 275.
That's huge.
Is enormous. Absolutely enormous. But yeah, man, go back and watch some promos of that guy, and you're going to hear words come out of his mouth, and you're going to hear phrases come out of his mouth that we've heard for 30 years over and over again since then. It all originated with Billy Graham. You know, the thing I wanted to say too, real quick, man, and really got to get into this, but you know that the fact that there just hasn't been really as much appreciation for that dude over the course of time as what there probably should have been. And you know, it's a shame that it takes somebody's death for people to really start to appreciate who they were. And it's not just Billy Graham, man. It's everybody and everybody that's ever lived. You know, it doesn't. We don't really appreciate people until they're gone. But you know, it's startling how much he did in the wrestling business and how much he inspired. And you know, it's just now starting to come out where that's probably he might be a top 5 guy ever. Billy Graham might be a top 5 guy ever.
Well, you know why? It's because so many top guys jack their act from him. So why is Muhammad Ali going to say, "Oh, these lines are great"? Yeah, I got them from Billy Graham. He's not going to.
Right.
What, you think Hulk Hogan's going to say, "Oh, Hulkamania, brother. Yeah, I'm just Billy Graham, but a baby face"? Not going to happen. Ric Flair does it. Think about the ego on Ric Flair, dude. He's still doing shows, drinking glasses of wine or whatever after he was on death's door. Like he's not gonna. He'll shout out these people, but he's not really gonna say that. Yeah, I jacked this from him or whatever. Dusty Rhodes is gone, so you know that we couldn't get his input, and so these people that have been forever kind of people. They're of course they're not going to say, "Oh yeah, I totally jacked my act from this guy." And that's the main reason why is that everybody splintered and turned into huge top guys, and they all were part of him, and none of them were going to admit it.
Yeah,
it's basically it.
That's awesome. Great job by both of you bringing the heat for that.
Hey, rest in peace, brother. You know, rest in peace. You had a big influence on this whole industry that we love so much. You were a major part of it, and we can't thank you enough for what you did.
Andretti, I would be remiss. Treat the audience, please. Could you tell us about a tribute idea you had to Billy Graham in the mid 2000s that actually was taken foot?
Yeah, I can. We can tell that story. So look, I want to.
I think it's perfect. Go ahead.
I want to preface this by saying that telling this has got nothing to do with royalties or even credit. I don't even want credit for anything. Okay, I really don't. But you know, it's just crazy to me how you just get intertwined with people in the universe, right? Whether you ever meet these people or not. So yeah, for whatever reason, I just became intertwined with superstar Billy Graham over this one thing. So, you know, in the early to mid, probably mid 2000s, there was a very prominent guy that was involved in wrestling action figures that was all over the message boards for the wrestling figure talk. Okay, because collecting at that point, you know, the internet was still relatively young, and there were a lot of people that were kind of gravitating towards each other in different message boards and things like that. Now, look, this is confirmed. This is a confirmed thing. It was really him that was on the board. I interacted with this guy all the time about different figures and about ideas about things and whatnot. And there were like 100 of us on there or whatever that would go on there and talk about the wrestling figures that were out at that time and collecting, and you know, the Remcos and the Hasbros and everything. And it just became its own little community. And this guy had found it, and he was a collector too. So he was coming in there and posting and asking ideas and asking for people's, you know, feedback on certain things and whatnot. And one time, you know, and again, this is a real thing. I told him I had an idea for a figure that would look like he was on a black and white TV. And about 6 months later, maybe a year later, the figure got made. So the guy that was on the board got back to me, and he thanked me tremendously, and he was very appreciative of me giving him that idea. He loved the idea. And then about 6 months or a year later, that black and white superstar Billy Graham hit the shelves.
Is that the classic superstars stuff?
Yes.
It is.
We all know who ran that.
And again, I'm not looking for credit or nothing. I don't want royalties. I don't want nothing. I have the figure in the package. I have the figure in the package. That's enough validation for me, to just know that I came up with the idea for that figure, and for it to be somebody as important as Billy Graham and what Billy Graham has done for this industry that has given me a lifetime worth of friendships and a lifetime worth of great memories and great times in my whole life. That's been a constant in my life since I was a little kid. That means a lot to me. It means a lot to me for me to have that figure still in the package and to know that I was the one that came up with that idea.
Look at you, you trailblazer. That's so awesome.
Yeah, and here's something I have to say is that the fact that Andretti has this in the figure, Andretti is a trailblazer of people that kept toys in the package. And so I wish so bad that I had the foresight that he did as a Ute, because when I was young, whenever I had $5 or $10, I'm going to the 3 for $5 bin at KB and I'm ripping open everything that's there. And I'm not thinking of anything else. And Andretti he's a true visionary, man, because he's got with the KB stickers on him, he's got, the Bret Hart Hasbros with the dark skin and with the light skin, with the pink sunglasses and with the silver sunglasses. He's got a Panthro that he picked up randomly at a hardware store whenever he was 9 years old. Dude gets it. And the fact that he has one of those that was OG bought, that was original, that he kept, I don't know. I think the universe tells us and then it shows us. And I feel like it told him whenever he was going to give his ideas, and it showed him whenever he went, and then they made that figure. And I hope someday that figure is worth more than the price of the LA home that Andretti bought so that he can sell it and live debt-free for the rest of his life. That's where I'm at.
Look at that.
Well, hey, man, I really appreciate all of that, man. I mean, thank you for saying all that. I mean, look, man, it doesn't matter to me if that figure's worth $10 or $1,000. For me, like it's priceless. It is a priceless thing that is a part of my life that is out there now in the universe that I'm really proud of.
I don't even know what even I don't even know where to even go from here, because that was awesome. And I love that we got that here on this show.
Yeah, and the thing about it is that if the 3 or 300,000 million people that listen to this show say, yeah, that's awesome, or dude, he's a liar, who cares? Like the fact of it is that like I've known this story for a long time, and I'm very glad that you got a chance to share it with everybody. And to be honest, your boy been looking here at the G beige. He's trying to walk down this Andretti road, but because I'd like to have me a B&W Super Macho Man put somewhere up here on the wall, just to say that because Andretti, you know what I'm saying? Like I think that's a great idea.
I think I bought it on eBay for like $50 a couple years ago.
Because that's what I have in my man cave right now. I have a lot of in box, like all my AEW stuff is all in box, and so I tried to keep that same energy that you did. So trying to follow in the small little footsteps that you've left behind here for some of us to walk in. So, but yeah, that's awesome. I'm glad that we got that on here.
That's the first time I ever told anybody. I mean, I know I told like you guys that, and my wife obviously knows about it, but like, and I might have told DeGraws or somebody like that, or even Dolan or somebody or over the years, but I've never really even told that story to anybody. I just have always kind of just been like really, really proud of it on my own and happy that it was just out there in the universe. And I've never, like I said, I've never even contacted the guy that greenlit that figure and told him that. And I probably never will. And look, I'm sure I'll run into him at some point at a convention or something, and just run into it. I don't think I'd even bring it up, to be honest with you. I'm just happy that it got made.
That figure is a limited one of 3,000.
Yeah, I told my mom that story whenever Billy Graham died, And she just said, wow. And I tell you what, coming from Mama Mongoose, it's a pretty big thing.
As long as
That's
I can,
awesome.
if I can
Yep.
pop Mama Mongoose, that's all I care about. I just want to pop her.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
That's
Dude,
awesome.
I'm so inspired. I'm so
I know,
inspired.
right?
I just put an offer for a Billy Graham.